There are women, when they enter a room, the light spreads. But there are also women, when they leave, the light returns. This is not a harsh remark, nor is it an attack. This is the truth that experienced men understand. Not every smile is genuine. Not every hand that holds yours truly wants to walk with you to the end of the road. Life is too short to give your time, energy, and hard-won peace to women who leave you confused, exhausted, or doubting your own worth. Especially those who know how to hide behind charm, eloquence, or refined behavior that is practiced as if it were an art. In today's video, I'm going to show you 7 clear signs that the woman you're with may be pulling you away from your peace, your sanity, and even yourself. This is not a judgment, this is a warning. Because, as Marcus Aurelius wrote, the happiness of your life depends on the quality of your thoughts. And I want to add one more thing, that happiness also depends on the person you choose to accompany. It's time to reforge your sanity. Let me begin. 1. She's addicted to drama and you have no idea you're living in a show. You won't notice it right away. Drama addicts start out as a breath of fresh air, vibrant, interesting, different. They make you laugh, they liven up any conversation. They make you think you're with a woman with fire. But then, that fire doesn't warm you up. It burns you down. Pay attention. When things are too quiet, when there is nothing to argue about, when everything is calm and safe, she will unconsciously create a new fire. It could be an old story that suddenly comes up. It could be a jealous outburst from a harmless text message. It could be an imaginary problem just to test whether you are sincere or not. This is not a normal emotional outburst. This is not a loss of control on a tiring day. This is a way of living that depends on chaotic emotions. For her, the feeling of peace is uncomfortable. Peace makes her feel empty, and so, consciously or unconsciously, she will trigger conflicts, misunderstandings, just to feel alive, to feel loved. An old friend of mine once confided that he lived as if he were walking on glass every day. His girlfriend never yelled or broke anything, but just one text message that was a few minutes late, one distraction while she was telling a story, and the whole evening became an emotional battlefield. There was no blood, but there were tears. There was silence. There was guilt. There was a feeling that he was the cause of her pain, even though he had no idea what he had done wrong. That's how drama addicts control reality, with emotion. No logic, no proof, no fairness, just a reaction, just an imbalance. And then they know. They're still controlling the center of the relationship, not with love, but with chaos. Stoic philosophy calls this the trap of impulsive emotion. Seneca once wrote, "The angry man opens his mouth but closes his eyes," and the drama-addicted woman is no different. She is not looking for truth. She is not looking for reconciliation. She is looking to feel powerful, to feel important, to feel that you are orbiting her like a small planet around a troubled sun. But you are a man. You are meant to be a stronghold of the mind, a fortress that cannot be easily breached. And if you let yourself get caught up in her emotional waves, you will slowly lose your sanity. You will start living to avoid conflict, instead of living according to your own values. You will no longer be a guide, you will become a fire extinguisher. So what to do? Not running away immediately, not screaming at her that you found out the truth, but learning not to participate in the drama. When she tries to make waves, you stand still. When she demands an emotional battle, you stay silent, not indifferent, observant, not cold, calm. Epictetus said it best, "We cannot control others, only our own reactions." So start there. Don't let her write the script for your life. If a woman can only feel important by creating chaos, then you have to ask yourself, how much is my peace worth? Because for the man who practices Stoicism, inner peace is the ultimate fortress, and no one, no matter how beautiful, no matter how charming, is worth losing that fortress too. 2. She controls you with guilt, and you don't even realize you're being controlled. Not all control comes in the form of commands or shouting. There is a more subtle, more silent, but much more dangerous form of control. It is control through guilt. This weapon makes no sound, it leaves no visible wounds, but it penetrates deep into your mind, causing you to gradually doubt yourself, adjust your behavior, and worst of all, lose your inner freedom. At first, she seems like a sensitive person. When you say you need to focus on work, she hangs her head, sad, saying nothing. When you suggest spending an evening alone, relaxing or meeting friends, she falls silent, then gently backs away, but not in understanding, rather in silent accusation. You start to feel guilty. No one condemns you, no one scolds you, but just one disappointed look, one very small sigh, or one time she whispers, "I just thought you would choose me," is enough to make you dizzy with thoughts. Am I too selfish? And then you start to change. You cancel a date with a coworker to take her out to dinner. You turn down an important conference because she wants to have an evening alone. You adjust your life little by little so you don't upset her, don't disappoint her, don't feel like you're doing something wrong. But there's one thing you don't realize. That's not love. That's emotional control. You think you're doing these things because you love her. But the truth is, you're doing them to avoid guilt. And that, according to Stoic philosophy, is the worst trade-off of all. Because when you act not on values or reason, but on emotional fear, you give up control of your life. Epictetus once said, "No one is free until he is master of himself." A woman who can control you through guilt doesn't need to say a harsh word. She will withdraw her affection at the right moment. She will make you feel guilty even if no one has accused you, and gradually you become the one who is always explaining. Every choice you make has to be rationalized to avoid offending. You no longer live by your own principles, but live to keep her happy. And here's the bitter truth. Every time you give in to guilt, you're cutting back on a little bit of your own personal boundaries, and the more she realizes that, with just enough silence, timely disappointment, or strategic emotional withdrawal, you'll immediately adjust your behavior. Not because you are weak, but because you are operating from an unstable position, one of fear of loss, fear of being hurt, fear of being judged. But the man who follows the Stoic path is different. He does not let guilt dictate his actions. He understands that kindness cannot be forced, love cannot be blackmailed with silence or disappointment, and above all, he does not trade his inner freedom for the sake of pleasing others. So, how to recognize this type of woman? She always makes you feel like you're not doing enough. She never asks directly, but always leaves a gap that makes you feel wrong. She makes you afraid to tell the truth, for fear she will be upset. And most importantly, you start living to avoid mistakes instead of living to be true to yourself. The solution is not to argue, nor to vent. It is to re-establish your inner sovereignty. Act from your heart, from your values. Remember, true love is freedom, not pressure. You have the right to say no, the right to take a break, the right to live your life without apologizing for it. When she tries to manipulate you with guilt, don't react with panic. React with strength. She may be sad, she may be disappointed, but if she truly loves you, she will respect your boundaries. If she doesn't, then that's not love. That's manipulation. And as Stoic philosophy teaches, we are not afraid of what happens, we are only afraid of how we feel about it. Keep calm. Don't let anyone take away your sanity with a sigh. 3. She's always the victim and you're always the one who has to save her. There is a type of woman who never takes responsibility for anything in her life, whether it is a small conversation with a stranger on the street or a relationship that has lasted for years. She always appears as the unfortunate victim. All mistakes are caused by others. all pain comes from outside, and if you are not careful enough, you will fall into this seemingly harmless psychological trap until you are deeply involved in a scenario that you did not write, but you are given the leading role. At first you may be moved. She tells the story so well. There are just enough tears, just enough softness in her voice to awaken your protective instincts. She tells about her cold ex-husband, her selfish boss, her betraying best friend. And you think maybe she just needs a good man, someone who listens and doesn't hurt her like the previous ones. But you forget one important thing. Is she simply the victim, or is she using that role to manipulate you psychologically? I once knew a man like you. His name was Tom, a quiet, stable man who had been through a broken marriage. When Tom met her, he was drawn to her honesty in sharing her traumatic past. He thought he had found a brave woman who was willing to share her pain as part of her journey to adulthood. But as time went on, Tom realized that the stories never ended. From exes to co-workers, from parents to friends. She didn't need anyone to love her, she just needed a loyal audience to tell her stories of injustice. And then, as if by fate, Tom became the next villain in her tragedy. If he agreed with her, he was the hero. If he disagreed or dared to say, "I have a part in this too," he became the villain. His every word of advice was twisted. His every silence was dismissed as indifference. Her every boundary he set was labeled heartless, not truly in love. This is not just a negative behavior. It is a mechanism for controlling emotions through the manipulation of compassion. And this is the most dangerous thing. If you do not realize that you are being controlled, you will willingly sacrifice your peace of mind in exchange for the feeling of being needed. But as Epictetus said, no one can enslave you unless you give them the key to your mind. Remember, a truly strong woman doesn't need to play the victim to be loved. She will share your pain, but she won't ask you to shoulder all the responsibility. She will know when to heal herself and when she needs an embrace, not a shield. So what should you do? Take a step back, observe rather than react. Examine whether the recurring narratives are truly healing rather than a means of control. Don't play savior in a drama you didn't agree to be a part of. And if you find yourself getting sucked into an emotional spiral, remember, sometimes kindness isn't about saving someone else. It's about saving yourself from someone who won't change. Stoic wisdom does not teach us indifference. It teaches us awareness. 4. She is obsessed with looks and status, and you will have to sacrifice yourself to maintain her image. At first, you might think this is harmless. Who doesn't like beauty? Who doesn't want to enjoy the finer things? An expensive dress, a fancy photo shoot, a date at a fancy restaurant. No one is saying that being interested in looks or status is bad, but the problem lies in where she places her values in life. For a woman obsessed with appearance and status, the world is a stage, and she never leaves that stage. Everything she does, every choice she makes, every relationship she maintains, is all in order to maintain the perfect image she has carefully constructed. Don't get me wrong, she doesn't just want to be beautiful. She wants to be seen as a perfect woman. Not just to live well, but to live better. Not just to be happy, but to make others jealous. Gradually you are no longer a man, an individual with flaws and strengths. You become a prop, a part of the picture she wants to show the world. You have to dress the right way to be worthy of her. You have to choose the right restaurant to post about on social media. You have to be successful not so that your family can do well, but so that she can show off her husband. She doesn't love you for who you are. She loves who you can be if you try hard enough to fit her scale. And here's the bottom line, such a woman will never feel satisfied. Not because you haven't achieved anything, but because her heart is driven by an invisible craving, recognition from others. And when it comes to external desires, it can never be satisfied. Seneca once wrote, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more. That is poor. To a woman obsessed with glamour, you can buy her one world and tomorrow she'll still want another. And if you don't deliver, she's not angry, she's just disappointed, quietly, enough to make you feel like a man who's not good enough. It's manipulation in disguise. You're forced to strive not for your own ideals, but to keep up with her apparent pace of life. A race with no finish line, no reward, just exhaustion." Stoic philosophy reminds us that external things are not worth betting your soul on. Wealth, status and fame, according to Stoicism, are indifference things that are neither good nor bad unless you give them too much power in your life. A woman who lives by looks and status doesn't see you, she sees what you represent. She loves the logo on the car you drive, not the journey you take. She loves the title on the business card, not the person behind the sleepless nights. She would rather take a picture with you than sit with you in silence and understanding. And if you stay with her long enough, you will lose your peace, not because she wants to harm you, but because you constantly have to prove your worth through the standards she sets for the outside world. The solution is not to teach her a lesson about true value. It's not to fight to get her to see the person inside you. It's to choose mindfulness. See the truth. You can't build a deep relationship on a foundation of shallowness. Because for a man who lives by Stoicism, value lies not in what he owns, but in how he lives with simplicity, self-control, and not controlled by the eyes of the world. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Don't lose your self-worth just because you live in a world that doesn't recognize it. If you're with a woman who can't see past the makeup, the designer labels, or the number of social media followers, you don't need to argue. You just walk away. Not because you're weak, but because you value your freedom of spirit more than a fake look of approval." 5. She lacks empathy, and you only realize it when you need her most. There are human qualities that you don't see on a sunny day. You only realize their value or their absence when the storm comes. Empathy is one of them. In happy moments, when everything is going well, when life is full of laughter and bright plans, lack of empathy is easily covered by sweet smiles and charming words. But at some point, as is the inevitable law of life, the sky will change color. You will lose a loved one, your health will decline, work will come to a dead end. And it's in those moments when you have nothing left to give, nothing left to prove, that you see the real person next to you. A woman without empathy doesn't scream, she doesn't make a scene. She's simply absent. She may still be sitting there, but her eyes are elsewhere, her mind is elsewhere, and her heart, if she has one, is not in tune with your pain. You tell her about the death of a loved one. She nods, says a cliché, and quickly steers the conversation to the fact that a co-worker stole her idea at the office. You confess that you've been battling depression and anxiety lately. She's quiet, and then asks if you'd like to go shopping with her this weekend. She hears but does not receive. She sees but does not see. She is near but not present. A man I know loved a woman like that. After his first wife died, he met her, young, smart, good at talking. At first she seemed understanding, a good listener, but then when the real pain surfaced, when he needed someone to just sit there and be quiet, she started to lose patience. Every time he mentioned his ex-wife, she changed the subject. Every time he needed quiet, she felt abandoned, and at the moment she should have been most present, she disappeared, not physically, but in her heart. A woman who lacks empathy is not a bad person, but she is certainly not the right person to be with. Stoic philosophy teaches us one thing very clearly: accept reality, not illusion. And the reality is, you cannot love someone for you. You cannot teach them to listen with their heart if their heart has never learned to vibrate with the pain of others. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Don't waste time arguing about what a good person should be. Be one." And I'd like to add, Don't waste time expecting a woman to be empathetic if she doesn't want to, or kind. A woman who lacks empathy will make you feel alone even when she is there. Not because you are not heard, but because you are not felt. The pain you express is treated as dialogue. The wound you open is treated as a problem to be quickly dealt with. And you slowly learn to be silent, not because you are strong, but because you know you will get nothing but emptiness. So what do you need to do? You don't blame, you don't beg, you don't expect, you simply accept. Accept that there are people born with closed minds. They may be beautiful, smart, talented, but if their hearts don't know how to empathize, they can never walk with you through the cold winters of life. Stoic wisdom doesn't require you to be angry. It only requires you to be honest. Honest about how you feel, honest about your absence of feeling, and honest about your choice. Stay and hope for change, or walk away and protect your peace. Remember, a woman with a sympathetic heart doesn't need to say much. Her presence, quiet, steady, and real, is enough to let you know, I am not alone. If she can't do that for you, then you shouldn't spend your whole life trying to make it up to her. 6. She doesn't respect your time. Has taught us one thing, it is. If life has taught us one thing, it is this. Time is the only asset that cannot be returned, can be restored, but time past is gone forever. Money can be earned again, health can be restored, but time once gone is gone forever. When a woman doesn't value your time, it's not just carelessness, it's a deep sign that she doesn't really value it. So when a woman doesn't value your time, it's not just carelessness, it's a deep sign that she doesn't really value you. Successful contractor has, I once knew a man named Richard, a successful, principled and accomplished builder. Yet in his love life he repeatedly let his time go to waste. She, Elise, was beautiful, intelligent and charismatic, but she was always late, always cancelled, always had a good excuse. Richard was patient. He changed his schedule. He cancelled meetings with friends. He waited in restaurants alone, over and over again. And then one day, after being stood up again, he just sat there, looked at his phone screen and sighed. I feel like I'm always waiting. And that very statement is the cruelest truth. A woman who doesn't respect your time will keep you on hold, not just physically, but emotionally. Waiting for her to come along, waiting for her to change, waiting for her to value you the way you value her. But a Stoic man understands that. It's not that we have little time, it's that we're wasting it on people who don't deserve it. Seneca does forget you. She is not to be, she didn't forget about you. She wasn't too busy. She just didn't prioritize you, and that you just have to make a decision, and you don't have to argue or demand. You just have to make a decision. Who you will. A person who respects you will be on time, keep their word, and consider every minute with you precious. People, the one who will take your time without seeing wrong. And people who don't respect you will take your time without seeing anything wrong. Time is running out, and in the end time is wasted, not because she's late, but because you waited too long to notice. 7. She never admits she's wrong, and you're the one who has to shoulder all the emotional responsibility. There is a type of relationship that looks very normal, even very peaceful on the surface, but when you dig deeper inside, you will discover something scary. All the mistakes are yours. Always you. She may get angry, she may say the wrong thing, do the wrong thing, hurt you, but somehow the story always turns around so that you're the one at fault. And if you're not careful, you'll start to believe that's true. A woman who can't admit she's wrong is often very clever at turning the conversation around. If you present a logical argument, she won't respond with logic, but instead turn it into emotion. Why do you always make me feel so bad? If you present clear evidence, she'll say, You're attacking me. You always make me feel like I'm never right. If you stay silent to avoid an argument, she'll say, you're indifferent to my feelings. She doesn't need to win with the truth. She just needs to make you feel guilty for facing the truth. And you start to change. Not because you're wrong, but because you're afraid of emotional outbursts, of criticism, of the Cold War. You learn to say sorry when you're not wrong. You learn to be humble to avoid burnout. You learn to live in an emotional box where you constantly have to think before you speak. Not because you're cautious, but because you're afraid of being labeled as the person who always upsets her. And here you are not being yourself. You are playing a role, a tired role of being always right, always giving in, always taking responsibility for things you didn't do. The problem here isn't a single argument. It's a dangerous psychological pattern. She sees admitting wrong as synonymous with being weak. She believes that if she takes responsibility, she will lose power, and to avoid that, she will twist everything from words to events to position herself as the victim or right. But in fact, not admitting mistakes is not strength, it is a form of mental weakness. Because only those with strong enough inner self and strong enough values can say, I was wrong, I will fix it. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, if someone can show you that you are wrong, thank them, because you are getting closer to the truth. A woman who can't say, I was wrong, is not a strong woman. She is so afraid of having her ego hurt that she is willing to sacrifice the relationship to protect a false sense of perfection. She may be very smart, very charming, very persuasive, but she lacks the most important ingredient in any mature relationship, self-reflection. When someone never admits their mistakes, the relationship becomes less of a place for mutual growth and more of a battlefield. You stop looking for the truth. You stop looking for temporary peace. You stop communicating. You weigh every word. You stop being yourself. You become her go-to person when logic isn't on her side. And you know what's most tiring? It's not the arguments. It's the feeling of constantly balancing a leaning building, just so it doesn't collapse even though you're not the one who built it, on the wrong foundation. Stoic philosophy teaches us that we can't control other people, but we can control our own inner truth. So take heart and face this truth. If she can't admit her small mistakes, the relationship will never grow. You don't need someone who is perfect. You need someone who is brave enough to say, I was wrong, I get it. Because in those words there is more than kindness. There is also the opportunity for the two of you to move forward not through acting, but through being real. And if it never comes, leave not out of anger, but out of respect for yourself. If you've been listening up to this point, you're probably starting to look back not just at the woman next to you, but at yourself. Because the truth is, in every unhealthy relationship, the one who hurts is not always the evil one, but sometimes the one who lets the evil continue to exist. You don't have to get angry. You don't have to expose anyone. You don't have to fight to prove yourself right. The Stoic man understood. Not every door needs to be slammed shut. Some just need you to walk out and not come back. Remember this. True love doesn't make you sacrifice your core values to keep it. True commitment doesn't make you lose your peace every day. And a woman worth having won't force you to trade your freedom, time, or self-respect just to keep the so-called relationship. Don't wait until you're exhausted to learn to let go. Don't wait until you lose yourself to find your sanity. You are the leader of your own life, not the victim in someone else's drama. Live as a sovereign man, not just on the outside, but on the inside. And if you find this video awakens something in you, leave a comment below, share your story, or just write, I choose clarity. That's how you tell yourself, today, you start stepping into the light. Thank you for joining me. See you in the next videos where we learn how to live stronger, more mindful, and more peaceful.